Welcome to the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders at B2B services, tech, and SaaS companies to learn the systems and processes they've used to create success for their business. We'll also learn from marketing and sales experts to provide insights to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and the podcast is brought to you by Modern Revenue Strategies and their 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee. Schedule a free diagnostic call to learn the fastest path to double your B2B revenues in just 90 days. And welcome to another episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and today I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Andrei Zinkevich. Now, I'm going to read his bio because he's got a lot going on. I want to make sure I get it right. Andrei is the co-founder of fullfunnel.io. They're a full funnel account-based marketing operations for B2B tech companies. And we're going to talk about what account-based marketing, ABM, really is and some really exciting ways to execute against that. Andrei lives and breathes B2B marketing all the way back since 2007. In 2019, he published LinkedIn Content Marketing, How to Generate High-Quality B2B Leads on LinkedIn Without Cold Messaging and Ads. And that book was awarded as the best B2B marketing ebook and was included in the 100 best B2B marketing books of all times by Book Authority. So he's also the host of the Full Funnel Marketing Podcast, and that podcast has been featured on CXL, Sales Hacker, Marketing Profs, E27, Rev Genius, B2B Growth Show, The Loop by Cognism, and the Top Podcast by Nathan Latka. So we've got a wealth of expertise and information with us today. Andrei, thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate your intro and super excited to join you as well. We had a lot of behind the scenes conversations about ABM, and I loved this convo. So super happy to chat with you today and dive deeper in what full funnel ABM is.
Yeah, so you're obviously an expert in the space, and it's something we're both really passionate about. So that's where we're going to spend our time today. So account-based marketing, ABM, since that's going to be the focus and what we want to talk about, I want to make sure that all of our audience knows what we mean when we use the phrase ABM or that an acronym. So why don't you give us your definition of what account-based marketing is?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to keep it really simple. It's a strategy that aligns your marketing and sales and also subject matter experts team on selecting accounts that are likely to become sales opportunities in the nearest quarter. And your goal is to create personalized experience, which means personalized messaging, content, narrative, and outreach and offering to these accounts to generate sales opportunities. While this is a small chunk of the market, the next goal for your ABM strategy is altogether, again, I'm mentioning this team, right? 3 roles, to create awareness among accounts that fit your ICP to be able to create a future pipeline, right? Accounts that are not in the market right now that could become sales opportunities in the next 9 months. So in a nutshell, it's a strategy that narrows down the focus, and instead of volume-based approach, you define accounts, you define the criteria of accounts that are likely to become sales opportunities, you do account research, and you create meaningful personalized interactions with these accounts to be able to generate sales opportunities. That's one part, right? The second part is accelerating existing pipeline and winning more deals. Next, expanding the businesses with accounts that are already your customers, but you have a small wallet share. And lastly, renewals, right? Keeping your key accounts with you because nobody wants to lose these big customers, right? So in a nutshell, these are the 4 goals that ABM team pursues.
That's great. And one of the things that I've seen be so transformative about ABM is, there's the statistic out there, and I know you know it too, that 95% of your target market isn't in market at any given time. And so if you focus, on the market, very, very large, and don't focus on that 5% that's in market, you wind up missing a lot of those opportunities. And the other statistic that sort of backs this up is, 70% of the buyer's journey in B2B sales and buying is done before they contact the first vendor, much less someone who's in the middle of the pack. And so if you're not even the top contender, they might be further through the journey before they ever contact you. And so the ability to really focus on that 5% that is in the market and then to identify them early in the process is really key to focusing your resources to win those best opportunities, which is so key. And one of the things that I love about ABM is sort of the idea of focusing on that 5% that's in market through using, sort of third party or even first party intent data, where you can get a signal that, they've engaged with you at some point recently, or they're currently reading some information on your website, or maybe they're even out on the open web researching topics that are, relevant for you, that gives you an indication that they're actually in market. And the ability to use that as, sort of the filter against which all your activities then focus is such a powerful aspect of ABM that I see so important.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And I would love to highlight several things here, right? So first of all, you mentioned that the bigger part of your market is actually not buying, right? Now, the most common problem and the most common myth about ABM is that it's just enough to purchase technology and then create a list of accounts, and then you can, because it's called ABM, now you can generate pipeline.
Right.
Now, what it actually means that sales, if they have a broken territory planning framework, right? And quite often it's just, okay, this is our territory, this is our firmographics criteria. They end up with thousands of accounts. They send this wish list to marketing and say, now let's do magic. We want to do account-based marketing. Let's generate sales opportunities. So that's the first thing, right? If they're not buying, not like no strategy will help. The truth is that now another point that is really essential, and that's why we love to focus on full funnel marketing instead of just, putting all these different motions as demand gen, as awareness, etc. in silos. These are all the components of your full funnel go-to-market strategy. Let's look at the buying process from the buyer's perspective, what you have already mentioned, right? We believe there are 3 levels of demand. Let's say I'm a marketer right now. I have no needs. Let's think about our company. We don't have any current needs, right? And I might go to LinkedIn. I might see some relevant events. I might see some relevant content. I might check out the product out of curiosity just because I want to learn more. But that intent doesn't mean that I'm going to buy, right?
That's right.
Now, the problem is that a lot of companies, and this is where it goes tricky with intent data, they treat it as a buying signal.
That's
wow,
right.
They engaged with me, so this is the buying intent. No way. And then they ruin the experience. The key point here is that this is the stage where you create an awareness. And if you do it properly, right, I might shortlist you, what you have mentioned, right? So when the business trigger hits me, something happens that is relevant to the challenge this product solves, right? The jobs to be done, then I might consider it buying. Hence, this is how ABM teams should be looking at these accounts. Now, then there is a second level of demand, right? Demand for solution. I have a specific challenge or specific business priority. But it doesn't mean that there is only one solution, right? Obviously, we can solve it multiple ways. And I am just thinking about different alternatives, right? Hence, the key goal of that product, first of all, persuade that this product is just a good fit as a solution to me, right? And when I prioritize this solution, then there is a demand for vendor, which means a lot of companies, they focus only on the last level of demand, right? Creating demand for vendor. Hey, we have the best product in market. This is our, like this are our case studies, features, etc. That's absolutely fine. But if I don't understand, right, that your product falls into the right solution to my business, I'm not going to buy it. And Now coming back to using intent data, and also I would love to highlight one more important part. A lot of teams, they just do ABM in, let's say, I believe this is a little bit obsolete way, thinking about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 accounts, right? Tier 1 accounts with the highest revenue potential, then we are going to do like fully personalized campaigns. Honestly, most companies simply don't have resources and budget to do it. And also, there is lack of patience to do a proper one-on-one experience, right? I mean, the biggest, maybe in big enterprise, that could be still the case, obviously, but for scale-ups, for startups, no way they are going to do it. Now, tier 2, one to few personalization. This also happens rarely, so most companies for tier 1, tier 2, they apply the playbooks from tier 3, right? Creating like some kind of general offering for these accounts and trying to kind of market to them, hey, we help companies like your company with X, Y, and Z, right? So go and buy from us. I think that all companies should, why I mentioned these levels of demand, right? They should categorize their accounts and prioritize accounts accordingly to the level of demand and vendor awareness. Hence, but always, first of all, there is account qualification, right? Which again means that both teams should be aligned on this, right? What makes an account a good fit? And it's just not only firmographics criteria, right? There could be specific business criteria that's you need to consider, right, before selecting this account. And also disqualification criteria, which leads us to lost deals analysis, right? Are there specific criteria that a certain category of accounts have that we can't fulfill, right? Hence, there is no need to even prospect to these accounts, right? We need to disqualify them. So that's the first thing. The second one is we always prioritize accounts by 4 parameters. It's revenue potential. Obviously, if we want to do ABM and we want to do proper ABM, right, we prioritize accounts with higher revenue potential. Next, level of awareness. If these accounts are not aware of us, if these accounts are not aware of our product, and like, as I mentioned, the first parameter is revenue potential. So we want to sell to big enterprises. Can you really sell to big companies that don't know your product? No way, right? So you need to create awareness among your buying committee members. Now, the last one two last categories are the level of relationship, because you wanted to know you need to build relationship with the buying committee. If you are going up market, you want to sell to big companies, that would be always multi-steps sales process and even marketing process. First, you'll create your internal champion, a person who is in charge of jobs to be done related to your product, right? Now, then when you'll have the champion, that person will be selling your product internally, right? So, and the key point, a lot of companies, they try to get to the decision makers quite often, but they ignore the champions and also power users, right? So they skip the hierarchy of these enterprise accounts. They want to sell to decision makers, but decision makers, they don't care about these jobs to be done. They will just sell it to people, right, who are in charge of this. And then that would be a question to power users. Do you guys know that product? No, we have no idea. We used another product. Champion, do you know that product? No, I have no idea. The deal lost. And you have no idea, right? So relationship, and lastly, buying signals. Again, if there is no evidence that this company has a buying need right now, you are just wasting your time. So coming back to philosophy of ABM and account list building and prioritization. First, the qualification and prioritization of accounts, and then segmentation into 3 lists. First, the biggest list will be your ICP cluster. These are accounts that fit your qualification criteria, and they might come from sales territory planning, but these accounts are not aware of you, and you have no idea are they buying and if there is a product need evidence, which means that the goal for ABM team would be creating awareness, right, among these accounts. And we can define what it means, right? There is no unified definition of this. Every team should set up clear criteria. Like you said, that could be repetitive visits of high intent pages on the website, whatever, right? You define what does it mean to call a specific account vendor aware. And then we have the second category, accounts that fit your ICP. They hit your engagement threshold, right? We can call them vendor aware accounts, but still we have no idea what is their challenge. Are they buying? We don't see any signals, which means that first of all, we need to validate it, right? We need to do a proper account research to uncover their needs, to be able to create a personalized offer, right? And this is where ABM team spends 20% of their time, I mean, in terms of manual actions. And lastly, we have active focus, accounts that know us, they are vendor aware, accounts that were researched, and there is a clear proof that these accounts have either they demonstrate buying signals or somehow we were able to uncover their needs, right? They know us, we have some level of relationship. This is where we spend 80% of our time and we create meaningful experience. We do a lot of engagement with buying committee members because these accounts are likely to become sales opportunities in this quarter, right? The second list is what we call future pipeline. We uncover that, we still continue engagement, they're already aware of us, but we still need to understand their needs. And the level of demand at this point might be a demand for solution, right? So they're evaluating different solutions. So they could become our pipeline in 6 to 9 months. And lastly, the bigger part will fall into this account awareness. This is where we need to focus on. This is where our brand awareness and demand generation programs fall down. So this is how full funnel ABM looks in a nutshell. And from my experience, it works much, much better than just traditional account segmentation to 3 tiers.
Yeah. And so smart to think about it, like that it has multiple sort of both short-term and long-term objectives and short-term and long-term kind of criteria. And one of the things you talked about there that's so vital is the concept of buying signals. And we think about it sometimes as sort of like the context. And oftentimes, and I know that you're a big proponent of doing sort of like, post-sale interviews where you talk to your customers about why was it that they went to market at all to find a solution. And oftentimes you find that your best customers have similar sort of context that they're operating in, like either their market's shrinking and so they have to go out and find a solution to help them deal with that, or maybe their market's growing and they need to go out and find a solution to help them with that, or just staff is increasing, whatever the context might be. And so when you can understand that buying signal as a context that lives in the marketplace, you can set that criteria and even have alerts set up so that when you see companies make announcements that indicate that they're moving into that context, that becomes a buying signal that now is the right time to start to prioritize them, move them out of sort of a backlog into sort of this target focus area. So much great stuff there. So one thing that I know our listeners might be thinking about, and so we've described a really sort of robust and integrated approach, but I know you have a really good definition of like is account-based marketing for me, so that businesses that are like, today we do I've got a marketing team and they generate MQLs and the salespeople hate the MQLs, but then I've got a sales team and they go out and do their thing. What one would be what's the type of definition that you use for industries or companies that it's really a good fit to move into an ABM type play that's more integrated between marketing and sales? I know you've got some criteria there that you use to help companies prioritize.
Yeah, absolutely. We have created ABM fit and readiness checklist. So if we'll look at, first of all, let's look at ABM fit, right? As you said, it's not a silver bullet and it's not just one size fits all strategy. So there are 3 criteria that company needs to meet to start first of all, even to consider ABM, right? Because then there would be another part, ABM readiness. So these are the 3 criteria. First of all, it's your annual contract value. If it's low, and I would say that the minimal threshold is 30K.
Yeah.
Less than 30K, it simply won't pay off to do it in a proper way. You either do like a, let's say, traditional lead generation wrapped up into ABM sauce, right? It simply won't pay off, right? Unit economics won't work for you. So annual contract value is at least 30K. Next, long sales cycles. So if you have transactional, if you have low ticket product, right, and you have if there is really no complex buying process, right? If just person owns the budget and can sign it, you might consider other strategies, right? You can focus more on performance marketing, on demand capturing, etc., right? Even on maybe even on outbound. So if you have long sales cycles, and just because what I mentioned, right, just because of these different levels of demand, right? So people, first of all, look for professional content, then they are looking for solutions when they have a specific business challenge or priority, and then they prioritize vendor, right? In that case, ABM would be a perfect fit. So that's the second one. And the third one, if because of complexity of your product, right? If you have a complex product, which kind of includes proof of concept, several onboarding calls, product training, etc., right? In a nutshell, it's like consultative sales process, right? There is a lot of education and there is a lot of onboarding and a lot of consulting, then ABM would be a perfect fit, right? If it's just, okay, I watched the like 1 minute product demo on the website, everything is clear, I can sign up, then just ABM won't be a perfect strategy for you. So these are three important criteria, and then two other criteria that are optional if you have like really your target addressable market is small. Let's say you are a solution for, like, let's say you're in Australia or in Asia and you sell a product to mines, for example, right? Your market is limited to number of mines, right? And it could be relatively small. So then you simply have no other choices to do anything else aside from ABM. So for example, back to my cadence at Kimberly-Clark, where I started my career, my market was limited to 50 something, 50 plus retail chains.
Right.
So what else you can do, right?
Right.
So that's the point. And the last criteria is, if I'm saying it's optional because it's not the case. It's not the only case for ABM. But if just because of nature of your product, you have multiple buyers involved in the purchasing decision, then ABM as well would be perfect fit. So these are 5 criteria to think about, right? And I mentioned, right, in the cases when ABM won't be a good fit for you.
Yeah. And I think that's such great criteria. However, it's so funny, like, not only has, account-based marketing become more popular because there's, better technology for orchestrating and better data sources for intent, but also as businesses have become more niche oriented and more complex in their sale, because now every professional service has a technology that underpins it, and every technology has services that sit on top of it. Those two things have sort of driven this growth in account-based marketing, because more and more markets fit that criteria because they've niched down to smaller, sort of sizes. They've grown their offering to where it's a larger average contract value with, more complex decision making, because it's got a technical component. So now there's a technical buyer, and it's got a services component. So now there's an end user, and then someone else, is sort of signing the check. And so that increases the complexity. When you got more people making decisions on the client side, that means a longer time frame, which again fits right into the value prop of account-based marketing. And so one of the reasons why it's become so popular over the last few years is not only is it getting better, but it's also, there are more and more businesses that it now is a better fit for, which I think is such an interesting sort of convergence there. Earlier, you talked about how ABM impacts multiple parts of the business. And I want to kind of get into some kind of tactical ways that it does that, and really sort of, give our audience some things to take away. And so we have sort of a framework we use to help, companies focus on their business, where, typically they might have challenges with attracting the right prospects. So knowing how to, go from not aware to aware and then actually get sort of like in a conversation. So that sort of part of the revenue system. The next set of systems is these acceleration systems. So like there's an actual opportunity, but you don't want it to stall out before it turns into that first contract. So you got those acceleration systems. And then the last set of systems is these, sort of activating your existing clients for faster renewals, larger upsells, and more referrals, and even more testimonials in the marketplace. And I know that you've got specific ABM plays that impact each of those areas. I'd love to hear some of your favorites to kind of get our audience thinking about some things that they might start to do to impact some of those areas where they might be weak. And I know you also there's a lot of folks that are out there talking about, well, you do this on LinkedIn or you do this in digital targeting or whatever it might be. You've got a lot of expertise moving beyond digital, and so I'd love to hear some of those examples too.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share. And I suggest to divide this into two parts.
Yeah,
In the first part, I will just give kind of framework how to think about creating your playbooks, how
yeah,
both teams should think, right? And then I will just share a few favorite playbooks that we did not, I mean, just from 2024, not to go like to previous years, right?
sure.
So let's think about how to create playbook, right? You're absolutely right. A lot of people say, hey, you need just technology, and then you can do like LinkedIn targeting, LinkedIn ads, boom, 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 a lot of stuff. And there are all like, even if you'll go to our blog, we have a bunch of different playbooks, right? Direct mail that you mentioned behind the scenes, etc. But does it mean that it will work for you? The key point is that we always start with selecting a cluster, right? And we have seen that cluster is the best approach when it comes to ABM. Cluster means that these are companies that fit your ICP, ideal customer profile, right? Your qualification, disqualification criteria, what we have discussed before. And these companies have a similar use case or challenge, right? They could belong to multiple verticals, healthcare, finance, etc., but all of them have a similar use case challenge. And this is much better than vertical targeting. In some cases, you still can do vertical targeting, right? But in this case, we have seen that it's much better because they have a specific challenge. And next, why it makes sense for you to focus on cluster? Because then your messaging, your content, your scripts, your offering would be about solving this specific challenge, right?
Yep.
And if you look at the list building, the way how I described the 3 lists, right? You create awareness with the relevant content for these buyers, right? So you make them aware of the challenges, right, that they might face in the future or might be facing already, but not prioritizing them, right? So this is how you create demand for content, then demand for solution, and demand for vendor. So that's the first thing. Now, coming back to playbook structure, right? 6 core questions. The first one is how we're going to select, or how can we define the cluster where we are likely to get the results, right? And these results, there is no silver bullet answer, right? Because it depends on your company's goals. If you have a dry pipeline and you need to create pipeline fast, then you need to prioritize clusters where you have shorter sales cycles and higher win rates, right?
Yep.
Now, let's say you want to go up market and you don't have a lot of experience here, a lot of use cases, and you believe this is a long-term strategy, right? And everybody, including stakeholders, are aligned on that long-term strategy, right? Then you prioritize clusters where you can generate, you have, let's say, longer sales cycles, but you have the highest annual contract value, right? So you focus on these accounts. So that's the key, right? Align the cluster selection with your ongoing goals and priorities. Now, the second one is what we have discussed, right? How can we define accounts that are likely to become sales opportunities this quarter, right? Because anyhow, if I do ABM, we still need to show the results, even if that would be intermediate results in terms of account engagement, pipeline creation. Revenue, yes, revenue is a lagging indicator, right? It's an outcome, it's a consequence of our activities, but we need to define small wins that we can present. So that's why the qualification and prioritization is the second question. Now, question number 3, how can we warm up our buyers? Which means that we need to do a key account deals analysis and do also customer research that you have mentioned, because we need to understand through what channels these buyers do the vendor research and even professional education, right? Where they consume the content, which resources they are following. Quite often, and I will in this just to complement my story, I will share a few case studies, right? Quite often you can see that these people are not hanging out on LinkedIn. I mentioned a case study where we're working with company. It's a SaaS company that's like digital twin products. They are selling to HVAC engineers, right? At biggest factories. Think Nestle in Europe, PepsiCo, etc., right? Heineken, beers production. So these engineers, they're working on site at these factories. They're not hanging out on LinkedIn. They're not following top influencers, right? So you just simply need to forget about traditional ABM playbooks. Just to give you an example, because of the customer research, we were doing several interviews, and for us to uncover the right channels, we were asking, like, are you belonging to any professional associations or communities? And then these guys were mentioning that they are following, just to give you a context, this company is located in Belgium. And there is a big HVAC association in Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So they mentioned that they are following news that are coming from that association. So for us, the only way to create awareness and be able to engage with these buyers were to partner with this association. So what we did, we agreed with that association that will sponsor the market research. We suggested that research was about the trends in HVAC, the trends and the state of digitalization in HVAC market. And digitalization is still a hot topic nowadays. Obviously, it's all about AI, but I mean, that's another story. So the goal was, because they have contacts of all of these buyers, they helped us to connect with these buyers. We were doing the interviews. We were talking about their processes, workflows, etc. There were obviously specific qualification questions to uncover their current workflows, potential challenges, etc. Right? And when we collected the insights, we asked, like, would you like to get a copy of that research? So some people agreed. Then we collected all of these insights and we just simply create personalized offerings. And in a sense that we were saying, obviously there was specific collateral aligned with it. So we created the processes, what areas should be digitalized, right? And why, how that could work. And answering we just thought about the most common questions, right? The implementation cost, how fast the implementation will go, right? What are the should IT resources be involved? And if yes, how? So all of this stuff we put in a simple content hub. Then we created a short prep of this. We sent printed version of the research when it was ready. Association obviously published it and helped us to distribute it, which created a broader awareness among strategic accounts, right? And that region. And as well, we were reaching out to these people saying, hey, so we sent you a copy. And we also thought about the processes that you shared. We have a few things. This is how these things could be improved in your workflows, right? We are sending you a content hub where you can learn more, but would you like to talk and see how that might work for you? And just because there was a trust already, just because there was some level of contribution, and also it wasn't like a pure product pitch, right? Hey, just because you shared these insights, here you go, here's the product pitch. No, we were talking. So first of all, because I think what is really important to highlight here, the product is a part of the processes. So to be able to buy the product, they need to refine their processes, right? So first of all, we wanted to highlight, and I hate the word broken, not just broken, because people don't like to hear this, right? You come as a vendor and say, hey, here is a broken process, right? So no, we were highlighting these are the things that, for example, here you waste so much time that you mentioned, or here you spend these resources, and this is how that could be improved. Not saying that it's broken, right? And that's it. And like based on this campaign, like I can't reveal the numbers, but that was just a significant pipeline and revenue generated.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, right? Thinking behind the scenes. So how can we warm up, right? And I share it like because that was the second question in the playbook. Oh, sorry, the question number 4. How can we warm up, and then how can we activate these buyers, right? How can we create sales opportunities? Now, the last question here is how do we maintain our campaign and how do we track our progress? A lot of companies, they agree on the playbook. Okay, this is what we are going to do. And then the teams continue working in silos. Now, you need to have regular ABM review meetings. You cross-share the collected insights, right? You plan the next steps. Sometimes you disqualify accounts just because they are unresponsive, or because, for example, you got an insight that they just signed a contract with your competitor, right? So there is no need to actively prospect them, at least now, right? So or you collected insights that tell you that now we need to prioritize this account and just focus on them, right? And also collecting these small wins, cross-sharing with the rest of the team, because this is how you keep the momentum. This is how you get the support of the rest of the team. And the same, I just gave the structure, right? But if you'll tweak these questions, you can apply it to any playbook, so to any other motion. This was for new logos, right? Then if like for expansion, let's think about, right? You have a big account, you have, let's say, one business unit or department that is using your product. Now that department should be, let's say, your use case, your success story, right? But other departments, they might not be aware of you. So think about them as new accounts, right? The only one thing that is good here, you already have your, let's say, if you have good processes, you have a good success story and you can leverage it. You can still ask the same questions, right? How we're going to, instead of clusters, you can ask what are the departments that are likely to buy our product next, right? So you just simply tweak this, right? What would be the right buyers? How should we prioritize them? How can we warm them up? How can we activate? How we track and maintain the progress? The same for the renewals, the same for pipeline acceleration, right? So which accounts should be, but the key point here, if you'll follow that process, acceleration is already embedded, because I mentioned the last question, right? How can we track and maintain our progress? If you already have accounts in your pipeline, they should be involved here, right? So you always plan the next steps.
Yeah, so many great examples, and just the idea of kind of having the mindset of getting, that you don't have to be tied to online, that you can move, by preparing a hard copy of a report, the same thing that you might deliver, through a download, you can reach some of those harder to reach audiences in some really sort of creative and impactful ways. So as you've described sort of, the processes, for ABM, obviously it's not something that you want to sort of go into lightly. And it takes some effort to do it right, as you've said a few times. But there's tons of success stories of, dramatic increases in, sort of the results that companies see, and they really make it worth doing for so many companies. And I know that's kind of what you guys do there at fullfunnel.io is you help companies do this. Why don't you give us the pitch a little bit? Tell us a little bit about, for those that are listening that might be in the tech space that, are interested in moving, to an ABM type program. Tell us a little bit about your offerings there.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Full Funnel, we become a team extension and we help B2B tech. We work only with one vertical. B2B tech companies with high ACV and long sales cycles, right? So you are a good fit for ABM, which we have already uncovered, right? So what we do, we develop a custom full funnel ABM strategy that is aligned with your current resources, with your budget and stack, and execute it together through the pilot program with minimal team, right, to get results this quarter. And then we create a cohesive model which includes all these areas, right? Brand awareness, demand generation, activation, buyer and sales enablement, and expansion, right? So this is the full funnel ABM in a nutshell. But I would say that before even touching that offering, I would love to talk about business triggers when it should be a right fit, right? I think that is way more important. And I think that if any of these challenges sound familiar, then we can help. And I would just highlight the most common challenges. First one, if you think that you are aligned in theory with sales, but don't do anything in practice aside from receiving a wish list of accounts from sales and sharing with sales your marketing plan, right? That's a good one. In reality, you just work in silos and miss the revenue targets and been pressured by your stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
Then we can help, and ABM helps with this. Another common challenge we help with is that when you understand that your marketing and sales playbooks are broken, in this case, we can call it, right? So gated content, MQLs that are sent to sales, right? We all know that it doesn't work. But despite many attempts, you simply don't know how to fix it. It's just unknown, right? Next one, if your outbound paid ads and organic pipeline drastically decreased while cost of acquisition increased and you don't know how to fix it. So this is where we can help. Another one, which we hear last year a lot when we are talking from sales, right? You simply lack vendor awareness among target accounts and sales can't even get a reply from them, right?
Yeah.
That's another common challenge we can help. And lastly, you tried ABM and demand generation. You tried the conventional advice, but you didn't get the results, right? We can help with this as well.
I mean, you're sort of describing a problem or a set of problems that I know a lot of folks are dealing with. And so it's great to know that there is a solution and a group of experts that have a lot of experience implementing that. So if anyone that's listening is, in this B2B tech space with a high ACV and long sales cycle, and they're experiencing some of those challenges that you just described, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, as simple as that. They can find Andrei Zinkevich on LinkedIn, and there is only one bold guy there with their full name. Or you can go to fullfunnel.io/consulting, and you can just book a call with us. No friction points, direct access either to me or to my co-founder.
Well, thank you so much, Andrei. Obviously, we could talk about this for hours. It's a passion topic for both of us, but I appreciate your time and I want to be respectful of it. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks a lot for a great discussion.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining this episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. We hope you've gained insights to grow your business. If you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, comment, like on your favorite platform, and share to others who will find it useful. Do you know a CEO, founder, or leader at an early stage B2B services, tech, or SaaS company who would like to be a guest and share their story? Send us a note. Let's schedule a conversation.